not pivoting my business. My business is here. I've got, 17 and a half years in this industry. This was just a new business that I had time to do.
Welcome to the Think Splendid YouTube channel. My name is Lynn Stevens, and I'm the founder and CEO of Think Splendid, where we provide business strategy for luxury wedding and hospitality brands. In celebration of 15 years in business, I'm sitting down with 20 wedding industry leaders from around the world to discuss the realities of owning an event business in 2020. These splendid conversations are honest, candid, and authentically optimistic. In this episode, I chat with one of my favorite people, Phillips, a luxury destination wedding planner based in Chicago, Illinois. Allie and I talk about the importance of managing your mental health during the pandemic, actively choosing joy and authentic optimism over despair, the new company she launched, and more. Here's my conversation with Allie. Enjoy. I want to hear about how you got started in the industry. And I know you have a background in logistics, which is perfect for planning.
Right.
And I remember at your old house, I sat in your office while you were on the phone with a destination wedding hotel. And they were trying to tell you that I think former President Bush was going to be in town, or maybe he was still president at the time. He was still president at the time. So he was going to be in town and they were going to move your client. And you said, you don't have that in the contract. You don't have that clause.
Yeah.
So no, you're moving the president. And they did.
I know. Well, you have to sell it, right? I'm in sales. I mean, I think so prior to being a wedding and event planner, I worked in the logistics industry, mainly over the road, which for those of you that don't know what it is, it's trucking and rail, things that go on the road. So I did that for a long time. I worked for a startup here in Chicago. And then I took a little hiatus and did the .com thing, which was quite fun. And then with, the bubble burst on that, and then worked for Schneider. So helped Schneider National work on their brokerage division. So I worked in logistics for a long time, and I worked with customers on how they move their freight all over the world. So, I get to the border and then it would go on a plane. But, and so I had that sort of business logistics management background and just heavily business focused and sales focused. And then in kind of in the process of, moving through my late 20s, I had this sort of call to an entrepreneurial sort of spirit, right? I didn't want to work for anyone anymore. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to make my own rules. And I kind of I went to a lot of luncheons and business luncheons, and I sat next to another woman who was an event planner in Chicago. And she said, hey, we need help on the weekends. Could you help with the weddings? And I'm like, perfect. And so that kind of started, I started working for her, and she was a mentor of mine. This was 17 years ago. She was a mentor of mine and was like, you're great at this. I don't service the city. You should start your business in the city. Cause I was living in the city then, and I was engaged at the time. And so back then, there was no Instagram, there was none of these things. And so I kind of just put up my shingle on the door and said, we're open, and figured it out along the way. Now the business and the analytical and the logistics background really helped in understanding flow of things. And I mean, weddings, while they're beautiful and fun and romantic, there's a project management plan. And that's what kind of transpired when I started my business, is I really took those skills and moved it into the wedding side of things. And then the design and all the pretty things, that was something I had to learn by attending, conferences and seminars and things like that locally, but then also in the United States. So I sort of figured it out along the way. There was no college degree for event planning back then. Now there is. There's so many great online tools now to learn and educate yourself. And back then we sort of just networked and learned by trial and error. And here we are 17 and a half years later, in my 17th wedding season, which is kind of a weird season, as we all know. This is because I'm doing one event this year, one wedding. So I did more weddings the year I started my business than this year, but then there wasn't a global pandemic.
Right?
Right?
I've gotten a lot of questions from people who had it in their plans to launch their business in 2020. They're like, should I still start
this? Should I still do this? And I'm like, if you can tolerate risk and you have the financial cushion, why not? Because it's never going to get worse. It's never going to be harder.
Right. No, and it's because I mean, pretty much overnight, you started moving and canceling events right in March. So March 17th, I remember. It's like a date in my head. And they closed the schools. My niece had just gotten back from Europe. It was scary and no one knew what to do. So at that point, your April weddings are like, well, they might happen in June and July. But then as you go through it, you realize that it wasn't going away. It was getting, scary and unsafe. And we just, at that point, pushed everything to 2021 or 2022 or outright. I mean, I had 5 clients just cancel. And that's hard financially on a business that is, I'm in Chicago and I do a lot of destination work, but most of my business is from May to November. And here we are 7 months away from March 17th, just the other day. And I haven't done events since then. Now I've managed clients and moved things, and that was really busy and a juggling act at the beginning. And then we did have a client that held out for an October wedding, and they're doing a small socially distanced mass, no dance floor ceremony followed by a luncheon. So we are doing one event this year and we're really excited. And we're planning it in 4 weeks. So she was like, I really want to get married this year. We can do the big party next year. But she feels she wants to add some joy into her year. She actually had left to shop for her wedding outfits with her fiance in March. She left March 5th to go to India and got back in August. So she was there, not able to get back for a long time, but she was like, I still want to get married this year. So a lot of people are doing events, smaller events, and doing them safely. In Illinois right now, we're 50 guests and under with social distancing and no dance floors. So for the people that had the larger bands and dancing was such a big part of their event, they've moved to next year, if not 2022. So some clients of mine even said, let's move, hold the deposit. We'll see how this goes. We survived 2008. We can survive this. We'll do it. Although some days you wonder, is this the end of what I said that I like want to tear up when I say it because I've spent so long building and toiling and learning and there's just so many, we've done so many events and it's like, are we going to make it? And everyone's like, of course you are. But some days you stop and just, there's something in your head that wonders, especially because we've sent out a lot of proposals lately and talked to a lot of really excited couples. And then they aren't able to make the decision because they are still waiting because of the state that I operate in Illinois. Our governor has made it quite clear, and much like California and New York, that they're going to put safety first before events, as they should, so.
Right.
Yeah. And my events are larger events too. So I work a lot in the South Asian market. And so my events are, they're typically 250, 300. I had a 800 person event this year. And so a lot of those people want to delay so that they can have, their family come in from outside of the country and really kind of do the celebration the way they'd envisioned it. But I have talked to a lot of brides and grooms who are wanting to do something small in the next 6 to 8 months, which has been, fun to talk about that and walk them through how that works and how we do it safely.
You and I have talked a lot about staying sane during this time.
Yeah.
And I know we both love our spin bikes and we both do use working out to kind of keep that energy moving through the body and clear the head, and not just for exercise, but for mental health as well.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about, especially for you, because I'm an introvert, so I'm over this, but introverts get their energy from being alone. That's how they recharge. Whereas extroverts like you get your energy from being out and around people, which I think is, you did better with the spin classes like at Soul Cycle because it is the energy from everyone in the room. It's not just you on a bike in your living room. But can you yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like the things you've done to stay sane as an extrovert? Because I do think introverts have it hard too. Like, I'm over this. I'm ready to like go out and see people again and then come home and take a nap afterwards. But I do think extroverts have this harder right now because it is such a toll and they can't get that daily refresh that we're so used to getting just by walking around in a crowded city.
Right. I mean, for me, I'm not only an extrovert, I'm also a complete empath. So like the energy around me is really important. And so when for me, the hardest part of the first couple months was it was cold in Chicago. There was so many unknowns, and my release, I mean, I soul cycled 5 days a week. And it was the thing that brought me back to like, okay, cause event planning it's a tough business and you're dealing with a lot. And so it brought me back to like where I could be mentally, where I'm like, okay, I've got this. I've got the day. I have, I ride with a lot of like really inspirational instructors. So for me, it's yes about the exercise. And yes, I love the fact that, I was trimmer than I am now. Right. Cause like COVID, yeah, that's a thing, that gaining weight thing. And that was, so for me, I miss like the energy and the inspiration of that room. And I could feel it a little bit. Like we got a bike for our house because I thought how long, we kind of realized this is going to be longer. People are like, oh, a couple months. No. So we got a Peloton right away. And like, I zoomed into some classes, and that was helpful for me for sure once I started exercising again. And then we started walking too. So my husband and I every day would go for a walk and get outside, even if there was like ice and snow on the ground, because for me it was really good to get out there and like just be out in the world and know that the world wasn't just inside the news, which was scary, and then also inside of your house. And John was quite busy. My husband works in retail and he was really busy. Retail was busy, and I was rescheduling. And so we were like working in the house together, which we'd never done our entire like 18 years of marriage. So we kind of like had that weird thing. But so I think that was important for me, was like getting outside to go for walks. And we would do socially distant walks. My sister and my nieces and brother-in-law live about 30 minutes from me. And like, who knew 2020 would be the year of the family walk, right? So we would, meet up, we'd drive up to their house, we'd go for a walk. I'd get to see my young nieces, they're 21 and 18. And that was amazing and like helpful for me from a mental perspective. And then also too, like think of event planners. We have this wild life. Like we're out at, corporate events and social events, and it's celebratory, and people are, you see the energy and people are thanking you for helping make their special day like perfect. And all of that was taken away right away. And people were very thankful for helping them navigate the process. But it took an emotional toll on clients. It took an emotional toll on vendors. And so I had to just keep moving to keep sane, because, and we all did the zoom right at the beginning, right? And I sort of pulled myself out of a lot of those calls, because I realized that I could still see friends and make like coffee dates with friends or go for walks with friends. Like I have a friend that we would go for a walk, and we'd walk like basically on like some days we'd like be like on the other side of the street. We drive to the, so because you want to be safe, but I still wanted to see people and I still wanted to keep living, right? In a way that worked for me and for my psyche.
Right. And I think you touched on something important, especially for those in the wedding industry, is that a lot of wedding pros joke about being de facto therapists in normal times.
Yeah.
And because you take on a family's problem, especially if you're in the process for much longer, like if you're a photographer or sometimes the caterer or a planner, and you get to see the family dynamics that come into play, which can sometimes be messy behind the scenes. And so you're navigating that during normal times, but then you're dealing with is my business going to survive this? Is everything I've worked over the last 2 decades going to survive this? And also taking on that emotional burden for your clients at the same time, not actually being a therapist and not actually being trained to like how to let that go and not let it get to you. So it has been really hard for event professionals because we aren't just dealing with our own problems with this. We're dealing with our clients' problems as well on top of ours. And we're not trained to not take it personally.
Well, right. And think like your clients are worried about, because they have a huge financial commitment to vendors and venues. And then they're looking to you for advice. And they're saying, well, do you think that an October wedding will be a good what time? And you're like, I don't know. And then also too, there's like a lot of tears have been shed, right? On everyone's part. So you're there as like, as the event planner and like the wedding planner, you're there as like their rock. And so some days I'd be like, okay, we got this, because, you might go from, being, I cried a lot. I'm not a crier, but I've cried a lot this year. And like,
You're not a crier.
I am not a crier. I mean, it takes a lot. And so I've cried a lot this year, and like, maybe that was good. And maybe like my tears are healing the earth or something, like, I don't know. That's how I like attribute it. Like, how do I make my tears heal the earth? But so like clients are upset, and they're like brides and grooms, like in tears, and moms and dads in tears and you're relating this way, which we've gotten very good at. And hey, I've been using Skype and video because I plan destination weddings. So I've worked in this environment a lot, but like, you're trying to like, you want to like reach out and touch the hand of the client and say it's going to be all right. But then you're like, can they touch my hand and tell me it's going to be okay? And I have a lot of clients that really are such wonderful people. They're sometimes like, how are you? And which is so flattering and so sweet. And like, I like cried to a mom once. I'm like, I'm not good. And like burst into tears. And she was like, oh, honey. And like, because that, it was so sweet because, you're so focused on the client and, getting things moved and being there as your supportive business head. But at some point inside of yourself, you're like, I'm going to be there at your wedding. I might, like, I'll be there, and like, you're thinking in your head, you want to be there for them and be passionate and like, have empathy towards them. But some days it's hard because you're kind of like broken inside and confused and worried. But I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who've had clients that were like, that it was really, moving everything was hard. It was a lot of phone calls, a lot of juggling. My clients were all so wonderful and so great and understanding. And it was such a team effort towards rescheduling and making the decision or making those decisions to cancel. So I am very honored and lucky and grateful that my clients were so wonderful. And those that, decided to postpone, and great, and were in touch, and then cancel was, it was emotional, but I understood, some people wanted to move on, and some people were excited to get married this year and, start a family, and that might take precedence over a wedding. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose the, final payment, but you're not. Cause for me, like, I'm such a compassionate person that I want it. It wasn't about the money and the deposit. I mean, it was, but like, it was, you cared about your clients so much. God, right. I'm really wearing my heart on my sleeve. This is kind of weird. Usually I'm like,
I know.
Right. Oh. But I think like, and like, what I said, okay, I wrote it down. I had it here somewhere. I was like, I don't want 2020 to go by and be like, I hated that year. Let's just forget it. And there's so many funny memes and I laugh at all of them. It is not 2020. It is not the year to blame. It is the pandemic to blame. And we need to remember that this is just because the clock flips on December 31st, this is not gone. And I had said to John, I mean, after I pulled myself off of the floor, because it was kind of like, pretty bad at the beginning. My husband's name is John. Is that I want to remember what I've gained in this year versus what I've lost. Because you can look at the financial loss, the loss of trips, the loss of seeing your friends, the financial loss, because I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore because it is what it is. And I was like, yes, there's those losses, but I'm going to come out of this year and say, what did I gain? Which was, things that you learned about yourself that like I never really knew. And I think that's when you look at what has gone on the last 7 months, is to like kind of reflect on that. Yeah, we have our losses, but what did you gain? Which was for me a great and really closer relationship with my nieces, which was incredible, and lots of conversations with them that might not have been had if we all hadn't sort of stopped and been forced to go for walks and actually sit in the garage. Like we would sit outside or sit in the garage with the doors open and 6 feet apart. My sister would get out, like it was cute. My sister was funny about it, but like I gained that I was had a really busy year. I was traveling, I was here, I was there. I wouldn't have made those relationships stronger with my nieces if it was a regular year. And I think so many people, if they're watching this, can go, oh my gosh, and make like a little list of all the things. I mean, I've gained 12 pounds for sure, but I'm saying gained. And as far as what did you gain? What did you learn from a self-reflective, like awareness part? Like, what did you learn about yourself from a self-awareness in this situation? Pandemic, like show. Because that's what it is, right? Like it is a show, right? And it's okay.
Yeah. One of my resolutions, intentions for 2020, even before we knew about all this, was to be very intentional with my sister's family this year, because they are long distance and I don't get to see them as often as I'd like. And we can get wrapped up in our own families and our own houses and all of that. And and she's got the 3 kids, so I don't get to see. But one of the things that came out of everyone being home, and my nephew, who just turned 13, if you can believe it.
Oh my gosh. I remember
I think you met her when she was pregnant with him.
Right. Oh gosh. Wow. Time flies.
Yeah. So he and I have been doing workouts over FaceTime with the Peloton app, like together, like the
so fun
weights and stuff. And it's fun because it's not the workouts I would pick. It's definitely a little out of my comfort zone. I'm like, I would not have picked to do these planks. I don't like the planks. But it's fun, and that's a memory we're going to have for the rest of our lives of that's positive. And it came from his school being canceled and all of that. And I get up early to do it with him because he is 3 hours ahead of me. Right. But still, it's, he's doing school from home. He has time, and he's really into like fitness right now. So it's fun. And he made like a little group for us on there, something like, I am very beautiful, which sounds so snobby.
Oh, cute though.
But it's an inside joke. So I leave it on like the front profile, and I'm sure people are like, she's so full of herself, but it is an inside joke. But it's really fun. And that's something that I really love about this year. And my niece, who is turning 6, if you can believe that, she'll FaceTime me out of the blue and like ask for an impromptu dance contest, and we'll do it for like one song. And then she's like, bye, and hangs up.
Yeah.
So those are things that when everyone's busy and everyone's living their own lives, and even kids living their own little lives on their like preschool schedule, those things don't happen. And it may sound cheesy and overly sentimental, but like you said, you want to remember what you've gained instead of what you lost.
Right. Because you have to, I mean, it's going to take us years to like unpack this, right? Like psychologists are going to be really busy, but
the therapist will be rich. Zoom will be rich. The ring light people are rich.
Amazon guy's rich. I mean, it's crazy. Well, he was rich.
How did we not invest in like ring lights and Zoom?
I know. My husband was like, because he was like, maybe I'll buy the Peloton stock like right in March. And I was like, it was like literally like he didn't, but he's like, it like tripled. But so we kind of like segue, but like, I think, in everything that's happened this year, mental health is important, and movement for me was important, and connecting with people was important, as it always is. Like I can't physically be with people, maybe, because I have friends all over the country, right? And we can't all physically be together, but we can still connect. And I think this year I've had a little more time to connect with people that I necessarily might not have had time to connect with if I was in a really busy wedding season. Like I would be at the end of my wedding season right now and my bank account would look beautiful and I'd be tired, but then I'd be like, working on next year, and next year we I mean, I haven't signed a new client for quite some time because there's so many unknowns for next year. Anyway.
One of the things you did that I love and thought was brilliant was you started My Celebrate Shop.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about that? And
yeah. So My Celebrate Shop was, it's air-filled art / balloon installations, because I am an entrepreneur at heart and I really like to I love wins. I'm a salesperson too at heart, and I love wins, and I love creating happiness in these magical events. And I don't think celebrating birthdays and things isn't over just because of the pandemic. They look different, right? So people that have, distance, or, people that have the parades that go by the houses and everyone waves for birthdays and honk and things like that. And so I am also a designer because I get to design parties and menus and menu cards and my, what linen goes with this and where does the lighting. So I missed that. I thought, I kept calling it this is my sabbatical year and I'll just relax and I'll do all these things that I was going to do.
You can't relax. Who are you kidding?
I'm not good at it. I tried. It was by April 15th, I was So I kind of was I will be able to do this. So I ordered some balloons from Amazon and I ordered a pump and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And then I have a friend in the industry, Melissa Hagen, who we kind of connected, and she's I'm oh my gosh, I saw on Facebook you're doing balloons. I'm starting to do it too. And she's been really helpful. And I was just looking to create a little bit of revenue and income, but it also fed my entrepreneurial spirit because I love to build things and learn new things. And then I also was able to it's here I am doing really a higher end wedding and weddings and these incredible parties, but $180 balloon installation can bring as much joy and celebration and smiles and happiness as a beautiful 200-person wedding. And so for me to deliver those and create happiness, and then they tag you on Instagram, it was incredible. And then because I know a lot of people in the event industry, and I know a lot of business owners outside of the event industry, we started doing installations for some businesses for their openings. And we're doing some things for some weddings, some smaller weddings now. I had a nice lady that works. So we did this installation at Soul Chicago, which if you're in Chicago, you have to go there. Smoothies are the best. It's on Division in Ashland. And she asked me to do an installation 2 weekends in a row for their opening weekend, which was incredible. She said people walked in and said, I didn't know you were open yet, because that street has some boarded up buildings and things like that. We actually have had some, stuff in Chicago, a lot of businesses close. And she was like, oh my gosh. But so and I was I could do this. So then I, reached out, I put it on Instagram, I put it on Facebook. I got a couple this is crazy. Talk about old school marketing. We have a balloon installation up outside of our house because there's a lot of foot traffic. We have a grocery store at the end of our street, and there's people going, again, 2020 is the year of the walk. So there's a lot of people walking around, and I put old school signs up in my yard, and it says, want a balloon. And then they walk by and see a beautiful balloon installation out of my house, depending on, whatever mood I'm in. This week I just did this fun, colorful one. And that has generated a lot of leads. It's amazing, old school marketing, right? And networking. And I've been networking with caterers and with event companies where if they need, so people that are having smaller parties at their home, they can do something. We can do something in their home. Obviously I'm completely masked up and, safe, or we can do outdoors to say hey, here's the party, this is the door to come in. So I created a new business, which I never expected to create a new business. And I was thinking about it the other day. I'm darn it, I wish I'd been doing this for the last 17 years because it's a nice add-on as an event planner. And all my clients are hey, can you do the balloon installation for my shower? I'm going to give my phone, your phone number to my, to my aunt who's planning the shower. So it's been been a little bit of revenue, and it's been for me, like I get to design stuff, I get to play with things, and I get to drop it off and then either see the person as I'm installing it, because that's been really fun. People come out with a cup of coffee and like, hey, Allie, and then you get to see people from a distance. But then how much joy it brings, like people will send me videos of when their child or their wife went outside or their husband went outside and saw it. And that means a lot to me, because I just bring a little happiness to people, makes me happier in return.
Yeah. And I think we can all use that extra joy right now, like everyone can. But
Yeah.
also, I think it's funny that this is such a perfect time for balloons to make a comeback, because I remember they were really big between like 2012, 2014. And I know
Right.
Wendy Robbins out of Austin, Texas was like the queen of them for the event industry. And like the Ellen Show flew her out to do their installations for them for the backdrop and all of that. And then they kind of went away, but there's such a perfect thing for this moment that we're all collectively in, because they are joyful. They do spruce up. You can do them in a yard and they spruce it up and make it fun. And it's not even people who don't know what the event is for, just driving down the street. It's a pop of color and fun for total strangers who are like, oh yeah, there are still good things in life. There's still
look at that.
To see.
Yeah. Like there's a lady across the street from us, and she's just been watching it happen. And, she sees me loading balloons into our SUV and things like that. And, like yesterday, or we put something up on Monday, and we're running like a little fun, like end of summer special, just with some balloons that we're like, oh, let's move these, meaning like, let's get these blown up and make some money on them. And she was like, ooh, that's one of my favorites, which was so funny. Everything, like it was just something that I was like, oh, I like these colors, because balloons definitely have if you want to like use them, you don't want them to sit for years, you want to use them. So it was just funny that she's sort of like excited about everything, like when we come in and out of the house, or like when I'm coming in and out of the house and loading the balloons up, she's like, oh, I love those colors. Ooh, that's one of my favorites. And it's like cute that like just this nice woman that lives across the street that I otherwise maybe wouldn't have talked to, we like have this, my neighbor next door, Ida, she's so cute. She's 3.5. And I mean, I make her balloons all the time because she's just so cute. But today she was like, Allie, those colors are magical. And I was like, oh, great. Cause I get to see her. Because it's summer now, I'm a voracious newspaper reader, and it's now even more voracious than ever because I have way more time. So I see her every morning because she leaves for daycare, and so we have a relationship now. And she said, I love the color of balloons, Allie, and it's just cute. So my Celebrate shop, yes, it is. It's been fun, and it's like fed my entrepreneurial spirit, because I'm always wanting to. When you're not closing and signing new clients for weddings, because there's so much to be determined right now, this is a thing that, it brings me happiness, and it brings me happiness to watch how much happiness it brings. And I love that businesses are saying that it made an effect on the revenue of their business. That is the best testimonial. 50% of the people that came in that weekend that we did that, like we did a smaller install, she kind of soft launched, and then the big grand opening was the following weekend, where we did a really big installation on the front of her building. And she said that like the first week, she said 50% of the people that came in and said, we saw the balloons, so we came in. We know you're open now. And that's amazing that I was like, just something that we created was able to bring revenue and more revenue to her business from a balloon installation outside that draw people in.
Especially in the hospitality food business, which has also been hit dramatically.
Yeah. Our restaurants are, they can have outdoor dining, which is great, except that it's, last year, it's the first time it snowed was October 30th. They got overnight almost 2 inches of snow, and restaurants in Illinois, in Chicago downtown, I have a lot of friends that own restaurants, and they're only at 25%, yet their rent is still 100%, so it's to be able to help someone in not like in the food industry makes me so happy. Like we did, I have a friend that owns Gene and Georgetti's restaurants, and we did like a really fun, our gay pride parade was obviously canceled. So we did a fun installation outside their building that weekend. And people would take pictures of it and post, and, we did a beautiful installation for July 4th weekend in their tent in Rosemont. And like, that creates kind of hype and fun, and people take photos, and it makes people happy, but then also it can kind of like, hey, we're open, and draw people in. So, so it's obviously new. I mean, we're not, we're going to be selling right now. It's very custom, and, they email and what do you need, and what we're actually we've taken a couple of the designs that we've made, which you can pick colors, and we're going to do, I've never had an online retail store. I, 100% have been in a service-based business since I started this business, 17 and a half years ago. So now so My Celebrate Shop's going to take some of their designs online that you could just click. Cause as we all know, we're all so good at clicking and purchasing now. I can't even, I was looking at my Amazon orders the other day and I was like, wow, so I think that I'm going to give the, people the ease of just click, and here's the address and here's the date I need it. Obviously the larger installations would require phone calls and things like that. We've even done some site visits, to get measurements and make sure that how we install it and things like that. But it's been really, I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed having a little business that's growing, and my clients have enjoyed watching it. It's kind of nice to talk to clients and they're like, we love what you did this weekend. It was so cool. And, or people are like, I was at the smoothie shop and it turns out that it was your business that did the balloons out front, so that's been fun.
Yeah. And I love too that you were smart about how you opened it, because you opened it as a separate company so that it wouldn't dilute that luxury brand of Engaging Events by Allie. It wasn't Engaging Events by Allie does balloons now. It's Allie has these two distinct businesses, which I think is very important because, one, just for all the financials, it keeps it clean, different P&L, all of that. But also from a branding perspective, I think it's important, one, so it doesn't dilute the luxury, but also so that your luxury brand doesn't intimidate people away from My Celebrate Shop and think like, oh, she's expensive and does all these like exquisite 700-person weddings that are multi-day events at like the most expensive properties in Chicago, and we're not going to be able to afford her balloons, so it's two different target markets. And so I think it's key that you separated out those companies.
Yeah. And I want to thank Angela that she owns Wedlock's beautiful magazine. She helped with the branding and everything. And she was like,
it's so cute.
It was fun to build something, and then creating a new website, and it was just keeping it separate. It really exists separately. But I have, in a business perspective, used my relationships in the city to get new business. And, we met with a caterer the other day, and they're like, we want to make sure that all of our clients that are having at-home parties know that if they don't want to do florals, that they can do, a fun outdoor balloon installation, or we're doing some prototypes for Halloween's coming up. And so I'm working on, prototypes for that. We, obviously in Illinois, they have really discouraged trick-or-treating, and they haven't announced a stance on it yet, but they're saying, but you can still then have a fun drive-by balloon installation for Halloween, or inside your home for the holidays, for Thanksgiving, for Hanukkah, for Christmas. So we're going to be doing some gorgeous like staircases and entranceway installations, so that when you're having your small celebration for the holidays, there's something fun and colorful there that can last. I mean, indoors, these balloons can last. I mean, I have balloons that are blown up, because we just do we kind of see how long they last. I mean, I've had balloons last 2 months indoors. Now they get oxidized, but these balloon installations last indoors so long. So if someone wants to enjoy, burgundies and reds and greens for the holidays, they can enjoy it on their staircase for 2 to 3, 4 weeks. And it's my design and entrepreneurial brain is happy and feeling accomplished. That's for me what is important. Because when I was I'm just going to take the year off and relax and read that book and, do these things. And I mean, I was And we're not, hopefully soon I'll manifest it. We'll be hiring lots of more couples that want us to plan their wedding, but right now that's not happening. So this then creates revenue and is a pivot, as we sometimes call it, right? I feel like that's the word of the year is pivot and unprecedented.
I'm so over that word, but it
I
is the right word.
Like, I didn't pivot. I just it just blossomed and grew, I'm not pivoting my business. My business is here. I've got, 17 and a half years in this industry. This was just a new business that I had time to do. And I love it. I mean, even down the road, like 2 years from now, I still want that business to exist. Now, we might not be able to take installations on Saturdays like we do now, because we'll have weddings but I want that business to still be there and to still exist. And I want to bring it forward and see where it goes. And, maybe someday I'll have my own like balloon arch line and you'll walk into, I don't know, Target and we'll be there. My Celebrate shop balloon columns and then you'll watch YouTube videos of how to make them by me.
Do it now.
Right. Yeah.
Do it now.
Right.
The DIY party scene is here to stay for a while.
Yeah.
Because of the recession piece of this
I go
too.
to the Duel and I see her name. She's got the line of candles and her. Like, that's amazing. Like, I have this dream of my Celebrate shop. Now, that dream is no dream.
I have several of her things here in my house because I'll be at Safeway and I'm like, oh, I'm out of whatever. And I'm like, well, I can support this whatever company, or I can support
my friend
someone who's in my industry.
Yeah.
Right? Like who I actually know.
We're going to start doing ornament garlands. And I got my wholesale license at Kennecott's the other day. So I can get greenery and I can install greenery and ornaments in your home and do your decor for your holidays.
Good.
Because I can't sit on my haunches. I need to create and keep going. I need to create, I need to be busy.
Right.
And I need to, that entrepreneur in me is need something.
So the last question that I wrap all of these up with is, what are you most looking forward to when all of this is mostly over? I guess I don't know when we know it'll be for sure over, but when the most painful parts of it are done and we're moving on to a more normal life, what are you most looking forward to?
I mean, hugs, because I see, I miss hugs. Just hugging someone hello, I miss that. I miss traveling and I miss the conversations when people are so excited about, I miss the conversations and I miss the watching people doing their thing and doing it in a way that they love. I did this beautiful wedding this weekend, or all your friends, a lot of my friends work in the event industry. And I did this great party. I just traveled to San Francisco and, DJ'd this event. I miss those conversations because and I think a lot of the conversations you've had with friends and family and your colleagues has been hard ones. And I can't wait to hear, we did this amazing party. It was so awesome. And it felt the same. And it, and I miss that. I think I miss that the most, because a lot of times the person on the other end of the phone is calling because they really need a friend and they need support and they might be in tears or they might have anxiety. And so I think I miss and that's always going to happen. Right. But I miss that, that excitement on the other end of the phone or across the table at dinner.
The passion.
And we're all passionate, and I think it wanes a little now, but we're all passionate. So I miss that. And I miss traveling. I miss my parents, I've seen them, there's COVID tests and, there's that, the responsibility of going to see your 83-year-old parents. And I miss, and it's, and I miss even my parents who are, they're older and they're at home and they're not out and about them as much as I am. Even it's affecting them. So I miss those conversations with family and friends that, I don't know, I'm kind of all over the place, but does it make sense? Do you know what I mean though?
I do know what you mean.
We're all carrying each other through this. So, and believe me, I've had a lot of really funny conversations and laughter, and we've laughed through it and cried through it and, thrown our through it. But it'll be fun one day to, pick up the phone and know that it's because you just saw someone who was doing an amazing event in, I don't know, Nantucket, and they're so excited. They just got back and they're making a dinner date for you to go sit in a restaurant inside with 8 other friends. And that's kind of the things that I miss the most. And I miss traveling. I'm a travel bug. We all know that. And I miss seeing the world. And I miss being it's safe to see the world.